Hi, I'm Paul Germain. Welcome to another session of Smart Boating. As you know, if you've watched this show before, we typically try to educate or inform you about different topics. Could be how to insure your boat, how to protect your boat in the event of a hurricane, the proper personal flotation device, that sort of thing. But today, as in some other times, we're going to take a little different trip down a little different road and dive into a part of the boating industry you may not be familiar with. Today we're at the Pert Lowell Company, which is located on the banks of the Parker River in Newbury. A very old boat shop with a lot of interesting stuff. And joining us to guide us through that is Ralph Johnson, who is the son-in-law of the founder. Ralph?
Hi, Paul.
Good to meet you.
Nice meeting you. Thank you for coming by today.
Thank you.
As you said, the Lowells landed here in 1635 on the opposite banks of the Parker River, farmed the area until about 1725, moved to Point Shore in Amesbury. That's where the Lowell's boat shop is nowadays.
Yeah.
And Pert Lowell's family had a shop next door. There were two brothers that had a disagreement around 1793.
Oh.
That's why there are two sides of the family in this area in the
Yes.
boat building business.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyways, they got there around 1725. They started building small boats for fishing during the winter and then went fishing in the summer.
Oh, really?
But after the Revolution, with the growing industry in the country, and fishing was an important industry,
Yes.
the Lowells turned their hands to building fishing boats, specifically dories, full-time. And they did it for, well, from 1793 probably till the start of World War II.
Okay.
In 1946, my father-in-law decided he didn't want to live in Amesbury anymore, so he moved here to the Parker River and built the Parker River Yacht Yard, and then retired to here in the backyard, so to speak.
All right.
Which is the boat shop we're in at the moment.
Yeah. Well, how did you get involved in the...
I am Pert's son-in-law. In 1980, I was working for a banking company in Boston. I was not happy because the boss screamed all day, and I'm a very sensitive soul.
Of course.
So I thought I'd take 3 years off to learn the boat building
3
business.
years, okay.
So when I did retire from banking, I'd have something to do.
You all set?
It's been 36 years, and I never got back to banking.
36 years. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. And since that time, you've built a lot of different boats here.
I have.
Yeah.
I have dories, dinghies, skiffs,
Sailing boats.
townies.
Yep.
Even built a 24-foot Bridges Point boat.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to take a look at some of those. Well, you're just the right guide for the show, so why don't we
Thank
get
you.
right into it?
Sure.
Okay. Well, Ralph, you know, skiffs in particular have been very, very popular here on the North Shore, north of Boston for forever. And we've got a photo here of one of the skiffs that you built. This is a Parker skiff. What, about 16 foot, is it?
It's 16 foot exactly.
Yeah.
Parker after Parker River, yes.
Parker. So what, if we just talk about it for a minute, you think about, I've heard Amesbury skiffs, Parker skiffs, did they always have just the name in front of them to identify the area they came from and perhaps the conditions they were built for, or how did that work?
No, they usually identify the builder.
I see.
Now, Amesbury skiffs are always associated with Lowell's Boat Shop in Amesbury.
Oh, I see.
Parker River,
All right.
we dubbed it the Parker River skiff to associate with us here on the Parker River.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The design is an outgrowth of the dory.
It is.
The front end's a dory and the
well-
rear end is a skiff.
Take a look at it here. So you're saying that,
Yeah, the rear end is a skiff, i.e. it doesn't come in to a point of the
down
stern.
here.
This is a beautiful boat in that it shows you the line, the dory bow.
Yes.
It has that Swampscott
yeah, sheer. to it. Yeah,
sheer.
Yeah.
It has a beautiful sheer.
Yes.
And the stern is wide and flat so it can handle a motor.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
not for rowing.
Right.
And
we may see more of the shape in some of the other
Right.
pictures, I'm not
Sure.
sure. But is the bottom designed for power and to be efficient with a motor on it?
Yeah. The dory from the midpoint back rises maybe 3 inches.
Yeah.
From the midpoint here back, it's flat
I see.
because of the motor.
Okay.
You don't want it squatting down in the water too far.
And does the beam change at all from the bow to the stern? In other words, does it flare out and come back in again, or is it pretty consistent by the time you get
It's
to the
pretty
middle of the boat?
consistent. It may come in a little, but never like a dory.
Okay.
Not if you want any stability with the motor back there.
Yes. All right. Let's see. Let's see. We got some other pictures here.
Sure.
This is early on the build. It looks like.
Okay. Yes. This is built one of a kind.
Oh.
Okay. There were no. Well, the stem we borrowed from the Banks dory.
Yep.
The sterns was custom designed.
Mm-hmm.
The planks, again, same bevels, same techniques
Okay.
as in other boats, lap strake belts,
Yep.
which is that clapboard type construction.
Yeah.
You see here the fitting of the plank and holding it in place with a clamp.
I see.
Bob in this picture is checking to make sure that the bevels on the stem would make a nice tight fit,
Oh.
and that there was enough planking.
How does he check that? Just lay the two boards up against
Just
each other?
lay the boards up against each other and check.
Oh. That's interesting.
And also, the board is wider than necessary, so you've got to make sure where you put the screws, so you're not screwing into air.
That would be very
So you
effective.
have to fit them.
Right. All right. So this is what he's doing there.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
here, this is a little bit. Ooh, it's a little. I don't know what stage this is. This
Okay.
Is,
This is laying up the skillet. You know, the bottom was put together. The frames were screwed onto it. The stem and the stern were screwed on it. That was put on the form, and you've got to determine again that shape of the bottom.
Okay.
And also at this point you can see we talked last show about the shear strake, and there it is, the batten on there, so we
Right
could
here.
form the shear strake. This particular boat, we knew where the bottom was, we knew where the top was,
Yes.
and then we divided the distances to get the actual widths of the planks at each station.
so you got to be reasonably good at math. in this
Yes,
business.
you do have to be good at math. I can also tell you that of subsequent skiff that I built, it called for the distance between the frames to be 28 inches. For some reason, I got 32 stuck in my head.
did? Oh.
So a 16-foot skiff ended up being 17 foot 10 inches.
Well, he's probably pleased to
It
have more boat.
goes, yeah. Yeah.
How about here? What's
Okay,
going on here?
this is Bob working on the stern of the boat,
Okay.
and actually that's the daughter of the builder and daughter of the owner in the background.
Okay.
He is putting in some cleats. These are cleats, and simply put, this is going to reinforce the stern where the planking is put on the stern. Necessary because it had a big 60-horse
Yeah.
motor on
That's
the
where
rear
your
end.
load's going to be on.
Yeah,
right?
it's load, and you want to make sure the plank's going to hold that stern in place.
Yeah. What's the wood here in the transom?
That is a beautiful piece of mahogany.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
And,
wow, that's fancy.
Yeah, I'm not sure I could get it. Now, this one was built in 1991. I'm not sure I could get that piece of mahogany
That's
today.
a nice looking piece of wood.
We'd have to glue it up. This is a
This is the finished piece
finish
here.
shot with the chairman of the board in the picture.
Yes.
And we were at a boat show in Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Again, the tradition of painting the shear strake a different color than the rest of the boat.
I like it. It looks sharp.
It is a sharp boat.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very nice.
And
Ralph, you here at the Pertnell Company shop in Newbury, you guys really got into a lot of different types of boats. Power, self-propelled, and sail. And I thought we'd take a look at one of the sailboats here. We'll let the viewers see this for a second, and then we'll come back out and talk a little bit about the history. But what is it that they're looking at?
this is a 17-foot, 10-inch boat called the Fleeter Wing.
Fleetwood.
It's unlike other boats that we built, which were centerboards. This is a keel boat. You can see the keel and the piece of lead there.
Yes.
So it didn't have a centerboard you had to trip over in the cockpit.
That's nice. Need a lot more water to operate this in, but
Yes.
what was the reason that this got built?
The reason is that a gentleman, well, a group of men came to my father-in-law Pert in 1939 and said, Pert, somebody in Marblehead has designed the Rhodes 19, which is as a keel boat.
Yes.
And you've got to have something to compete.
Oh.
3 years earlier, he'd started selling townies
Okay.
to the racing fleet.
Okay.
And now they wanted a keel boat.
Yes.
So a man from Marblehead by the name of Oj Nielsen, who was a famous naval architect, worked for Sparkman Stephen Boston. His nickname was Augie, and he was known as Augie Nielsen, and designed many, many large sailing boats.
Yes, I've heard the name before.
Like the Concordia. But anyways, Pert called him and said, "You got to design me something like the Townie, but a keel."
Okay.
And this is his version of it.
This is it right here. Okay.
And in 1939, he got a contract with the U.S. Naval Academy to build 12 of them for the fleet in Annapolis.
Yeah. That's a pretty looking boat.
Yes. World War II came along, the molds, everything was put in storage, and it was forgotten about.
Oh, yeah.
In 1984, I found the molds, the building jig, in a barn across the river from here, and I said, "We got to build one of these.
Absolutely.
It looks like a fantastic boat."
Yeah.
So it took us some time to find the plans, but we built one,
Yeah.
and here we go.
That's a nice looking boat. Well, let's look at
Okay.
We've got a couple of pictures at this point of construction.
Okay.
So this is you typically build the boat in turtle fashion, right? You always turn it over and build it from the hull upside down, if you will, and then you flip it, right?
Okay, there are a few differences between this and the Town class boat you saw in the last show.
Yeah.
This is a smooth-sided boat, or Carvel.
Carvel.
And therefore it needs a keel sun in the middle to help form the frame of the boat.
Okay.
Also, this doesn't have sawn frames like the last boat. It has bent frames.
Oh, it does.
So it really, you have a jig with a lot of stringers on it, and then over it you'd bend these oak frames that you've boiled, and then you'd screw the planking to the frame. And again, it's smooth-sided. That means all the planks are butting each other. There's 9 planks per side on this boat. I think if we go to the next shot, you can see what the planking looked like before you sanded it and faired it.
Okay.
I might point out to you, all these seams here had to be caulked.
Yes.
Unlike the lapstrake of the Townie,
Right.
you know, you had to prevent the water getting in. So these all had to be caulked and then putty put over them, or seam compound put over them,
all right.
which produced that smooth hull we saw 2 shots previously. Again, good view of a mahogany stern.
Beautiful.
And you can see how the keelson
that
is
looks like it's
cut
mahogany.
in.
What's that center piece there?
The keelson is mahogany.
It is,
And I
yes.
might point out there's another piece over here so I can build my retirement boat.
Okay. All right. So you make it like this.
I'd make it like this.
This is a pretty boat.
It is. It's a gorgeous boat.
What are the planks made of?
The planks are, again, Eastern white pine,
Eastern
which
white
is
Is that pretty light and strong?
light and strong.
Rot
And you know,
resistant?
it really is rot resistant. I've had boats come back in for repair where the planking's fine and the framing, which was made out of oak, has rotted away.
Interesting. Now this is interesting because a lot of people don't know if they have a newer boat, but in the old days you had the decks for canvas over plywood.
Or pine planking, but
Pine,
when I built this one, I used 2 layers of 1/4-inch plywood to help take the shape.
Yes.
The canvas is called 110 enameling duck, which is a natural canvas product. And here, the tradition was to lay it in wet paint. So you slopped plenty of paint on the deck.
Okay.
And then you press the canvas down into it so the paint would bubble up through the canvas.
Oh, yeah, right.
And then you stretched it tight and tacked it along the side.
Yeah.
And then you'd come along later. You can just see a tag end of the canvas that has been cut off.
Okay.
You'd cut it off and trim it, and then it would be all hidden under the rub rail.
I think we got another shot that shows that. Right here, you can see the canvas coming
You
around
can
the
see
deck.
the canvas,
Yep.
and the inside edges are covered by the wash rails.
Yeah. That's kind of
and-
fancy. You got a lot of mahogany looking
Yeah,
right
a
there.
lot of mahogany on this boat.
Yeah.
The seats, the rear seat, the stern seat,
Mm-hmm.
the wash rails.
This is fancy.
Yeah, you can just barely see the partner around the mast.
Mm-hmm. You
Hole.
got that green deck going
Green
all around
deck.
there. What
Yeah.
color of green was that? Huh?
That's called permanent green, which is a dark forest green.
Yes, I'm
Another,
thinking.
again, another Gloucester color,
Oh, is that right? Yeah. Yeah, that was a great company.
108.
How about in here? This looks like seating for
The
everyone.
seating and the stern was hinged, so you could put stuff in the stern
Oh, for storage.
for
behind
storage.
there. Yeah.
And access to this had an internal rudder, not
Okay,
like the Townie,
yep.
which has a rudder hung on the back
Yep,
end of the
yep,
boat.
yep.
This rudder was actually hinged to the end of the keel, and it had a rudder post that came up through the bottom of
Oh,
the
I
boat.
know what you mean,
And
right.
I guess we had drilled the deck for the top of the rudder posts.
Yep, yeah. How
So-
many people would typically would go sailing at a time in a boat like this? 4 to 6?
4 to 6.
Yeah.
You probably could get 12 in it if it was October and it's really blowing, but
Right.
no one could move.
No, be pretty wedged in there. This is a really nice shot of the boat in the water here.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
Again, about 152 square feet in the sail here. But this, unlike the Townie, did have an after stay.
Okay.
So you could put Genoa jibs or a spinnaker on it if
Okay.
you wanted to.
So it could move right along.
Move right along.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's got 500 pounds of lead in that keel, so it would stay in the water.
Ralph, in this kind of custom building world you're in, you get all sorts of demands for different types of boats.
True.
And this one that we're going to look at next is called the Brutal Beast, and we're going to zoom in on it for just a second so people can see what we're talking about. That may conjure up all sorts of things. So, what can you tell us a little bit about the background?
Sure. I'll tell you how it came up with the name of Brutal Beast.
Yes.
There was a gentleman in Marblehead by the name of Starling Burgess, designed another famous boat designer. He designed a boat for his daughter to sail in Marblehead Harbor.
Oh.
The only way the daughter could go out in the boat is if she took her dog with her. The
Okay.
dog's name was Brutal Beast.
Really? Oh, I
Yes.
would never guessed
So
that one.
he designed this hard-chined sailboat, and Paul, this boat is so wide and stable that you and I can stand on the gunnel and not swamp the boat.
That's amazing. Well, let's
Yeah.
look at a couple of the pictures. So you wouldn't call this tender by any stretch
No,
of the
no,
imagination.
and it's not going to win a lot of races except against itself.
All right, but it's not going to go down to the bottom either
No,
because it's so
no.
stable. So that's kind of nice.
And
And
that-
here we are in the initial stages of a build. What's cooking
Okay, here, this again is a smooth-sided hard chine boat. Hard chine being the angle between the bottom and the sides
Yes.
is a specific angle, not a gentle curve.
Yes.
So you've got the line here to the bottom, make sure it's fair. The line for the shear, make sure that's fair. You don't want a boat with wavy lines.
No.
Doesn't sail well, doesn't look well.
Okay.
Now I have to go back and tell you that we built 10 of these for the MDC, for their sailing program in South Boston,
Okay.
which was headed up by a man by the name of Harry McDonough, who thought this boat would be just the thing for kids. As I said, it's stable.
Yeah.
He could load them up with kids,
Yeah.
and they wouldn't tip over.
Yeah. Well, that makes
And
perfect
so
sense.
here we are laying up the getting the jig, getting ready to plank.
I see. Okay.
Okay, here we are, started planking.
Yeah.
We're planking the bottom here.
Okay. Are you using the same wood? Do you use a common wood in most of the
No,
boats?
this gentleman wanted all mahogany boats because he wanted the kids to maintain them.
Oh.
If you weren't going to go sailing if you didn't help maintain the boat, which meant sanding and varnishing this mahogany.
Yes.
And so we planked it up in mahogany,
Wow.
which is a nice straight grain wood, looks great, but doesn't bend as easy as pine.
Right. Right.
And here we are. And the hard chine, the oak hard chines screwing
Okay.
in. So you can see we had to boil the mahogany for a while, and sometimes it boiled a little too much and it got scalded and
Is that right? That's what
burned.
those
Yeah,
marks are right
that's
there?
those which sand out easy, but
Yeah. Well,
So-
you know, you
so-
get up to temperature there.
yeah, you got
So that's the backbone. Any place where you need superior strength, you go with the oak.
right.
Yeah.
Yes, true. Even the stem on this boat was mahogany,
It
big,
was.
thick.
Oh,
Looked
boy,
like
that's
it
a little
was
unusual, isn't it?
4 by 4 piece of mahogany.
Okay, for a pretty sturdy piece of wood.
Right.
How about here? What's
Okay.
going on
Well,
here?
we're getting the planking on. Again, notice it's butted planking. It's not really Carvel construction, but it's smooth bottomed, and it would have to be caulked
Yeah,
and puttied.
yeah. And how many planks would be in a typical bottle? Maybe 10, 8 to 10?
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, there'd be 10 by the time you got to the outside.
Yes.
10 on a side.
Yeah, 10 on a
side.
side. Right, right. And you do a similar approach to the whole sides as well?
No, the sides, there were only 2 planks per side.
Oh, there were.
And instead of being butted like Carvel planking, they were shiplapped, which meant they were overlapped, but with a dado cut, not with a bevel.
Okay.
So that
So a little different.
different
butting the
construction.
planks
Yeah,
there.
we never did the same thing twice. Hey, here's an end finish shot.
That's
Excuse me.
pretty.
It shows you
shot,
all the
yeah.
varnish. The centerboard box is also varnished mahogany. The seats were mahogany.
Oh my God.
It's
That's a lot of varnish.
unfortunately the kids didn't want to varnish as much as Harry wanted to. I think they kept the boats for about 10 years and then sold them off
Oh, really?
because no one wanted to maintain the boats.
That's a lot of maintenance.
That's a lot of maintenance. Yeah, the
Yeah.
mast and the boom were also.
Were they? I think we've got a picture of them.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah, no, I know that's a 22-foot mast too. That's on a 13-foot boat. That was a big mast.
Yeah. So what sort of water conditions would they perform best in? Without
inside the harbor at Marblehead, or
Okay.
this particular case, Castle Island, South Boston, has a protected.
protected bays and harbors.
Bays.
Yep. So they could catch some real wind with all that sail area.
Yeah, for the amount of kids you're putting into it.
How
Yes.
many kids would go there? Maybe
Oh,
4?
I think they had 6 or 8.
6 or 8.
Yeah,
Everyone piled in, huh?
piled in, sitting on the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though, the seats are really there to help stiffen the boat more than to sit on, because you'd be hit by the boom.
Well, Ralph, custom boats come in all sorts of different sizes and shapes, and we've got a picture of another custom boat that you did here, and you really had a little different involvement with this boat. Maybe we can zoom in on that and show them what we're talking about, and maybe you can fill in the background on it a little bit.
Sure. This boat here is called the Bridges Point 24. It's a 24-foot full keel boat. We were driving to Maine with that Fleeter Wing for Nielsen Rendezvous, and a man stopped us on the Maine Turnpike and said, "I want that boat." By the time we sat down and discussed what he wanted, where he was sailing it, he wanted something a little bit bigger than the 18-foot Fleeter Wing.
Right,
So
right.
we found this 24-foot Bridges Point. We found we could buy the fiberglass shell, just the blue and the red part you see in this picture, and then we could do the rest of the work.
Okay.
We could put the deck on, the cabin in, the motor in, the mast, the boom, and everything. So after some negotiation, we came up with a price. Well, actually, open-ended. He paid for everything we did.
Open checkbook.
Open
I like
checkbook. Well, we tried to be reasonable, and,
Oh, I understand.
and we don't know whether we made money on it or not.
Okay.
But we had fun
was
because it's a project, and
Yeah.
everybody likes a challenge.
All right, well, let's take a look at some of the
Okay.
photos we have here. We've got, this one's early on. Now, when I looked at this picture, I thought the boat was made out of plywood, but that's not the case.
No,
Is it?
the brown paper is brown craft paper over the blue hull so that it wouldn't get scratched
yeah.
building it. Now, we did put the deck on, which is
Oh, you did?
plywood
Okay,
over
okay.
frames. We had to glue in side cleats to hold and we built the cabin. And you can see the decks and
Yes.
the side of the cabin roughed out. Of course, we had to put the cockpit in and the seats. Notice that we didn't have a lot of room between the loft and the
notice that.
floor of the shop. I don't know if we must have put the roof of the cabin on before we took it
Yes.
outside, but
Yeah.
I don't know how we fastened it. Don't remember how we fastened
Tricky
it.
process.
Okay,
Here's
this-
another view of it here.
This is a view, yeah, you can see some of the detail of forming the side deck with the cantilevered frames
Oh, yeah.
and the side and
Yeah.
the bulkhead for the stern.
Yeah.
And this open area, of course, is where the sliding hatch
Yeah.
went. Reinforcement for the mast. The mast was actually mounted on the deck
Oh,
of the boat.
okay.
And ahead of that is the starting of the plumbing for the head.
So you're really thinking a lot about not only aesthetics, but structural, because
Sure.
this is adding a lot of stiffness to the boat, right? All
Right,
these different
yes.
components.
Even a fiberglass hull, which is probably only maybe a half-inch thick, a fiberglass, it has a lot of give and take to it.
There's a lot of flex to it, yeah.
As any.
So this really helps stiffen the boat. So the boat
yes.
gets actually has more structural integrity the more work you do.
Okay, here we are putting the aft cockpit in and getting the motor situated there.
What kind of power did it have?
It had a little 20-horse Yanmar diesel, two-cylinder diesel.
Yeah.
Beautiful little engine.
Yes.
Beautiful, absolutely engine. Fortunately, they put the shaft log in, so all we had to do was put the bearings, the cutlass bearing on the back end, and
You made it look easy.
it made yeah. The man who guy by the name of Wade Dow up in Brooklyn, Maine, actually molds the hull.
Yeah.
He molds other fiberglass hulls for other boats.
He did a nice job. Huh?
Yes, he did. Wonderful job.
What's going on here?
Well, we're again
Some more
finishing
finish
off,
work.
finishing work, and again see how much room we had between the top of the cabin and the
Not much, right?
the joists of the
To watch your head on this one.
rafters. Yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful. And again, I think what is meant here is all these corners are actually 2x4 pieces of mahogany shaped, so that you wouldn't see the grain ends of any planks.
Wow, that's impressive.
So it. And here it is coming out of the shop. I might point out it's coming out on steel, 1-inch steel pipe rollers. The only way to clear the door.
Oh, I see. Yes.
You know, it went in because it didn't have a deck or a deck house on it. It went in easier, but coming out, we had to keep it very low to the ground.
Yes, yes.
And
Either get the boat lower, make the opening
yeah,
bigger,
no,
right?
I wasn't
So
going to
this was easier.
I probably should have redone the face of the shop. For-
How is
And
this? We've got a.
Here it is, underway,
yeah.
leaving the Parker River, heading for Newcastle, New Hampshire, where it lives on the marina there by the big hotel, which is name escapes me at the moment. The Wentworth. Wentworth by the sea. It's at the marina at the Wentworth by the sea.
Wow. Wow, that's a
and
pretty boat.
It is a pretty boat, and it sails well.
Well, Ralph, you know, it's been a really interesting time here today at the Pearl Company shop here in Newbury, and just so much to learn, so many boats you guys have built, there's all the different designs, very, very interesting, and interesting to know that you guys are still involved in this sort of thing today. But before we close out the show, is there anything else you want to add?
Well, as you have pointed out in our discussions earlier before the show, there are not many of us left around here, especially in Essex County, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I will not guess how many there are, but they're getting fewer by the day.
Probably,
handful
right?
of the day. Yeah. So I would suggest to your listeners, that viewers, that you go out and find these people and find what they are doing, if there's anybody, or if you're interested in getting in the business, whether they want any apprentices, because I'd certainly like to see boat building continue in Essex County, especially small boats.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
it's you don't need a 40-footer to have fun.
No, you don't. You don't. Now, if someone was watching this show actually plays in a lot of different places around the country, someone had a question or something, could they contact you guys to get direction? What's the best way to reach you?
The best way to reach us is through our website, www.pertlowell.com.
Okay.
Pert Lowell's one word.
Okay.
Telephone numbers and email addresses are listed there. We're here. I'm really here because I live here.
Right.
Monday through Friday. Come and visit.
Okay. Ralph?
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Smart Boating viewers, for joining us. If you have questions or input or comments, please visit our website, www.smartboatingus.com. We hope you'll come back again soon.